So after 3 years of daily use, everyday carry, range time, has the 407K held up, or should you look for a different optic? Let's find out. So I bought this 407K 3 years ago, and I got it because I needed an optic for my everyday carry, which is the Glock 43X, and so I had the MOS version, and I wanted something that would fit in that footprint. I was looking at the 407K and the 507K. The reason I went with the 407 was basically price, okay? The 507 was, I think, $100 more, and all it offered was a more precise dot. So for me, a 6 MOA dot, usable, and honestly, there wasn't that much difference between the two except for the dot size. So I went with the 407K, and like I said, I've been running it only on this Glock 43X, which is an awesome slimline design pistol for everyday carry. Very slim, and that's why I carry it all the time. So when I first got this optic, expectations were, I hope it runs and I hope it works. For an everyday carry kind of gun, for a concealed carry setup, you want an optic that is going to be reliable. I put it on top of the Glock 43X, and I did a lot of testing with the shake awake feature, right? When you pick it up, is the red dot on? And it was every single time. I couldn't beat it. I would leave it on a table, it would go off, I would just touch the gun slightly and it would come on. I couldn't pick it up and not have that red dot on, which is awesome, and it's what you want for a concealed carry gun, something that you're going to rely on. So let's talk about the performance of this optic over the last 3 years. What I can say is that this optic is, to me, I think it's very durable and it's very trustworthy. I've used it for everyday carry, and when you're reholstering guns or putting your holster in your pants, you know, there's belt buckles there. This thing is hitting that metal on metal. No issues whatsoever, zero loss at all. I recheck it, I confirm it every couple of weeks. You know, I'm going out to the range, I'll bring out my concealed carry. I don't shoot this as much as I should, but I'm usually shooting my competition guns. But overall, it's been extremely reliable. Another huge thing about this is the battery life, right? And this is huge because I didn't change this battery for about 2.5 years. And I went to go pick it up because I was going to do a video on, hey, how's the battery life on the 407K? And the battery was finally dead. But I hadn't changed it since I bought it, and it was over 2.5 years of use. And this is daily use, right? I'm picking it up. That red dot's coming on every time I pick that gun up. So that was incredible to me, that battery could last that long and be that efficient. And I didn't have it on a super low setting either. It's just a very good battery life. Holosun says it has 50,000, up to 50,000 hours of battery life. And now, I'm not saying you should do that. What's cool about this optic is there's a cut through so you can still use your irons, right? I can still see my irons perfectly. And I'll show you a clip of that, but you can see your irons. It's co-witnessed 100%. So there's no issue. Red dot goes down, I still have sights. But to me, that just showed how awesome this budget red dot really is. And because it's an open emitter, I've had no issues with any kind of fogging or anything like that. But because it is an open emitter, and if you conceal carry with an open emitter, meaning the back of this optic is open, right? Stuff can get in there. So I do have to clean this every once in a while. I get a Q-tip and I get in there and there's lint and stuff that builds up just from stuff falling into it. Now, it doesn't degrade the glass. It doesn't obscure it enough where I can't still see that red dot. The red dot is still there. Now, if it builds up with enough stuff, could it obscure your sight picture? Yeah, sure it could, but I've never had that happen. All the controls on this are still working fine. The buttons work great to increase and decrease the brightness. So no issues there. I've never had any issues mechanically with this optic at all. So that's good. So let's talk about the pros and cons. What's been awesome about this optic is the fact that it turns on and it's on whenever I need it. That's the number one huge thing. So for me, for an everyday carry type of optic, I want that. You need that, okay? So every time I pick that thing up, that red dot is on. I've never had it not be on. And when you pick up your gun, right, for concealed carry for the day, before you put it in, you check your red dot, check the brightness setting, okay, it's on. So I always do that check and it's always been on. Another cool thing about this, like I said, is that it does have that cutaway there. So you can see still With the MOS cut on this Glock 43X, the optic is able to sit down lower, and I do get a full co-witness with the iron sights. So that's really cool. Now, if you have to use an adapter plate, you may not have that exact 100% co-witness, but if you're using the Glock MOS slide, that will fit in there perfectly, and there'll be no issues. Another huge pro for this optic is the durability. It's got the metal housing on top. I've never had any issues. The glass is protected by this metal on the front, so it could hit into things. You could use a table or a hard surface to rack the gun on, and you wouldn't break that glass. This thing has been, banged around a lot. Just being an everyday carry kind of gun, it just gets more use and I guess not wear and tear, but it does get more exposure, right? Exposure to elements and different things like that. No issues. It's a solid little optic. Another feature that I love about this is the size. Now, the size could be a double-edged sword. It's small, so it stays with that slimline design of my Glock 43X. It doesn't bulge out any more than it needs to. It fits perfectly on that slide. And when you're concealed carrying and you want a very slim outline or no outline of a gun, it's nice to have an optic that fits that slim package. The only con I guess I have of this gun, well, there's two. The first is the size. It is small, right? So that window is smaller. It's going to be harder for beginners to pick up that red dot initially. With time and practice, it's not an issue. But it could be for if you are a beginner for a red dot and then you go straight to this, it's a small window. Not the best for learning a red dot, honestly. Another con could be the fact that it uses a 6 MOA dot. Now, it's not the most precise, and I do prefer smaller 3 to 2 MOA dots, just because I'm able to get a more precise shot on target. But with the 6 MOA, you're still able to easily get accurate shots on target within a concealed carry range, right? Within 50 meters. So is this optic still the best optic, in my opinion, for everyday carry? It's one of the best, I think, especially if you're on a budget. Now, am I gonna stick with this red dot? I probably will for a while, but I do plan on upgrading it to the 507K with the Vulcan dot reticle. To me, that's a great and fantastic reticle for beginners. So if you are just learning or just starting out with a red dot optic, you might want to go with that option. Now, you wouldn't see that circle if you're looking properly and have a proper sight picture through your optic. But if you're canted at all, so you're pointed up or down and you wouldn't normally be able to see that center dot, you see the outside of the ring and you're able to correct off of that. So in more obscure or austere positions, if you had to shoot under a car, say, or even out of your left hand, you're gonna be able to pick up that red dot faster and get on target much easier. So the final verdict is, I think this red dot is perfect for anyone who has a slimmer concealed carry gun like the Glock 43X or the SIG 365. If you're trying to keep that low profile, that slimmer profile on that gun, then this optic is ideal. It's also ideal if you're on a budget. These are one of the cheaper kind of, micro red dots that you can get, but that are still very reliable. Like, this is an extremely, extremely reliable optic. I love it for its reliability and the fact that it's always on when I need it. That being said, if you're worried about any kind of debris getting into an open emitter, maybe this isn't for you. Holosun makes other options that you could get. It also might not be ideal for your first red dot, just because the window is so small and you might have trouble picking that red dot up initially. Learning a red dot at first is a higher learning curve than with iron sights. But once you get it, it shouldn't be an issue at all. And if that's the case, if it is your first red dot, I would recommend the 507K with the Vulcan dot reticle. It's the ACSS Vulcan dot. That is a very good tool, especially for beginners who are trying to learn how to use a red dot. That being said, this is an awesome red dot, and I would recommend it to anyone who's looking for a small, compact, reliable, and budget-friendly red dot.